been one of those mornings. Good morning, everybody. Nikki Burnett here. Today's Taste Life Nutrition Radio and Podcast streaming live on KUHSdenver.com. Today we have a special guest who we've had on before, Saril Vasquez, and I'm super excited about today because we've got really cool things to talk about. But first, as always, this is really what I need today too, because I need to be a little grounded. We start the show with gratitude. Gratitude can change the world. It also can change a really hard morning. So we're just gonna calm down just a little bit. And first and foremost, Saril, thanks for being here. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for my father, who finally decided to start dialysis instead of deciding that he didn't want to live anymore. So that was a huge shift, a huge miracle. Lots of prayer, lots of fasting. So he just did the surgery to put, the mechanisms in so he can receive it, and that's like a miracle. So I'm so grateful for that, because that means my dad's going to be around longer.
Yay! Very good. I'm so glad to hear that. I know it's been a sort of a tough time over the last few weeks with some family stuff, and it's always hard when I think that sometimes we sort of change places with our parents at some point. You're like, how does that happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh man. So I am this morning super grateful for my husband, who helped to ground me today. So yesterday was our 20th anniversary, which I'm like, how does that even happen, right? So we took the day off. And I, just sort of got away. We went to the mountains, we had the dogs, we had a little food, it was just really super cool. And so we had an event we had to go to last night. So I have my little room that I get ready in, and he's like, hey, let's see if this fits. And so look at this. He got me this little really pretty anniversary gift that I just love. I just think it's so pretty. And so grateful for
that was new. I was just like, I haven't seen that on her before. It's gorgeous against your tan skin.
Thank you. So it's just really pretty. He's so sweet. And so this morning, I get up and ended up having to do some things that I didn't expect to have to do, right? Just prepare some things, so it just kind of set me behind. And then you have to have your stands for your cameras and stuff as I'm prepping for the show, and it broke bad. And so I'm just I'm behind and things are breaking and I'm mad. And so he comes in, he's like, can I help you?
Aww, that's what every woman wants to hear.
I know. So he holds the camera for me, and then he takes it and he tapes, so he holds it like I do the promo for the show, and I'm completely verklempt. And so the promo, it's always live, and it's just like, it's awful, but it is what it is, right? So then he takes it and he tapes everything all together so I can have it for what we're doing right now. Anyway, so I am driving here and just breathing and being grateful for my husband and talking to God a little bit and going, okay, just nothing's a big deal. And when I left, that's what he said. He said, no matter what happens, everything's fine. I'm like, you're right. It's fine. So, it's all fine.
Good job, hubby.
I know. Sometimes we just have those days, but it's okay because now it's all fine. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to hang on to it. It's just good. It's a good day. And I'm excited to have you on again. We had Saril on back a few months ago. She's got an amazing story about her own experience with hair loss and figuring out what that's about. It's a hard thing for a man or a woman, but for women, I mean, you have such beautiful hair, and this place where you're just trying to figure out what's going on and why is this happening. And I know you do a lot of praying, as are all things that I really want to talk about today too. But because of our last conversation, I don't know, it's not because of the conversation, but you at that point had been working on creating this really amazing summit, which is why we wanted to have you back on again, because we want to talk about this summit. It's massive, it's huge, and I'm grateful that you've asked me to be a part of it. But I think I want to lead with that. I also want people to hear your story if they didn't hear from you before, but let's talk about this amazing summit and just kind of, start there. Good stuff.
You know, there has never been a time, I believe, in history where more people have had a hair loss with the rise of COVID and the drugs for COVID and birth control and the food supply and, you know, stress of life, toxicants in the environment galore, right? Especially with the way they're building homes and just like the lack of clean airflow coming from the outside. And we talked about that last time, I remember. But so there's a need for a space for this conversation, and the conversation needs to be held in a way that takes into account the nervous system of the woman that's dealing with this. Because the woman who's dealing with hair loss and thinning is different from the man that's dealing with hair loss and thinning, because he can go and feel confident in photos, go out with his friends. You know, he might have a hard time, but he's gonna meet someone and not feel ashamed about it eventually, hopefully for him. It's just easier. Whereas the woman, most of us, will hide it with a wig, we'll have shame around it. Our lifestyle is affected. We can't go into the pool, and you know, we gotta buy these things now, and you know, only our husbands can see it. Do we feel sexy when we have, you know, private time with our spouses when we're, you know, when we don't have this on? And it just really takes a toll on the emotional state of someone who's dealing with this. And when they try to get some relief, they don't find a lot, in the sense that they're going to Facebook groups and they're hearing, there is no hope, just accept it. And they're going to the doctor, and the doctor's like, there's nothing we can do but slow it down. And they get put on these medications that have horrible side effects, at times, some of them. And there's just not enough of a safe space where people are coming together and saying, hey, I don't know if people are only listening and not seeing. But I was definitely at a point where I thought I was going to have to wear wigs, and I had like bald spots in different parts of my head, and including in the crown and all of the things, and you know, like a widening part. But that being said, it's going to make you feel worse, and it's going to make it harder for you to heal if all you're hearing is there's no hope. And every time you're Googling your type of hair loss, what you find is this one is incurable, this one is irreversible, there is no cure for this. When the people who are sharing that information are speaking from their experience, they're not going to say something that they don't know to be true, unless they're like a psychopath, right? They're going to share, like when I went to the dermatologist that was treating me, and she was my friend, she shared from her truth, like, oh yeah, you know, we could just, here's spironolactone, we're just going to slow it down, you're still young, you know, just try to save what we can. And that's her truth. And she is dependent on the reps, the drug reps that are coming into her office that are saying, hey, here's the new therapy for this. And that's it. That's what she has at her disposal. And so we oftentimes give way too much power to these other entities that, you know, to dictate what our future is, and we just believe it, you know. And what I'm creating with the summit is a space for people to start questioning some of those beliefs. And those beliefs will be questioned when they hear what we all have to say, you know, what you have to say, what some of the other speakers have to say, to bring a little bit of context to the idea that if we can look at hair loss and thinning as a genetic thing that doesn't necessarily have to express, right? Because I know you're going to talk about epigenetics and whatnot. And we can look at it instead as something that can be influenced, manipulated, reversed, supported through our diet or lifestyle, you know, and supplement practices, then all of a sudden it stops being this disempowering thing, this shameful thing, and instead it turns into something that can actually empower you, because there's nothing more empowering than realizing that there are choices that you're making on a daily basis that can make your hair better or worse, like in every moment of every day. And bringing that kind of awareness to your decisions and the effect that it has on how you look and how you feel about yourself is incredible. So the summit, there's going to be multiple speakers, like 30 interviews at the very least, all of us just geeking out on functional medicine and hair loss, and the fact that the real root causes are not the diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
Like AGA doesn't mean, oh, this is your hair loss, situation. This is your cause. You have hair loss because you have AGA. No, that is a definition that is in a book of medical literature that is attached to a numerical code that they get to assign to insurance companies, when they're explaining what's going on with this patient, so everyone's aware of the same language. It doesn't mean that there is no hope or you can't reverse it, even if Google tells you. It just means that they've labeled you as someone that has hormonal complications alongside hair loss. And that is how they are viewing you. But that is not your identity, and that is certainly not your destiny. And that is the message that we are getting out with the summit from people that are experts in, like you, epigenetics, or experts in autoimmunity, experts in nutrition, experts in inflammation, like all the things that are the real root causes.
Yeah.
So that's the message.
I think too, a big takeaway from this is, this is focused around hair loss. This is what you do. It's your specialty. You help people to understand their situation, look for the root cause for their situation, right? But I think what's important too is for those, maybe you know someone who is experiencing hair loss, maybe you don't. But this is information that is broad reaching for anyone with any kind of symptoms, right? So just because it's focused around this sort of this niche aspect of hair loss, if anyone's experiencing symptoms, this is the stuff that and these are the speakers. I mean I saw I've just lost his name, Tom on there, Dr. Tom, what's his last name? O'Brien. I was like, I've seen him speak multiple times. I'm like, yes, I'm so excited about this guy. He's so smart, right? I mean, all of your speakers are super smart, and I'm just like, I hope I can keep up. But
you're amazing. What are you talking about? Like, we need you on there. Like we see that epigenetic conversation and like with different types of people and all this stuff. Like, yeah, we need that. So yeah, we all have a place.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So what I would like to do, though, I think, besides just really, I really want to nail that is that this is for everyone. This is not just for people who are losing hair. So anybody who's experiencing anything, or if you're just a nerd like we are and you want to learn, right? But we all have stuff that we can take from summits like this, from these amazing experts. What I would love, if you're okay with it, is for you to talk about some of these people and what they're going to be talking about, some of the experts, what they're going to be talking about, give some insight as to what people can expect, because there's so much that goes into it and so much good information. I would love no more than to know what it is they're going to be talking about and helping with.
Well, luckily I have a list. It's kind of scratched out, but I have a list here. I can refer to some other people, so I have it available. But yeah. Okay, of course we have your beautiful self who's talking about epigenetic mastery, and then we're going to be talking about like different body types and whatnot, and how that can all like play into hair loss. So that is necessary, because one of the number one things that people say when it comes to hair loss is it's genetics. My dad is bald, so I'm going to be bald. Right?
I have no choice.
We need to debunk that,
yes.
For sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Then we have people coming on and talking about the different types of medication, like Dr. Rendia. She's going to be talking about the different types of medication that cause hair loss, right? And then some of the different, solutions to support it in those cases. And is it the medication? Is it the fact that you just lost a bunch of weight really quickly? So she's talking about that. I have another doctor who's talking about the types of medications they prescribe for hair loss, and when they work, when they don't work, and the fact that you probably don't want to use that as a first resort, and the reason why, right? And so she's an actual doctor who's explaining that as well.
Did you try any of the drugs? Do you mind if I ask?
I tried spironolactone.
Did you? Okay.
And I couldn't even do my job, and I was, going to different doctors' offices talking to them about the Hep C cure, because my breath was so rancid, people didn't want to talk to me.
Oh no. Ugh.
And my period stopped. And the bottle says like there's a category C risk of birth defects. So I was like, forget that, right? So it wasn't worth it for me. But it bridged the gap. It worked temporarily, right? But once I started seeing these side effects start to get a little bit more intense, for me, I was just like, I can't. This is not sustainable. Right. So I had to bridge off of it. But in the moment of a lot of fear, I was, give me the drug. You know, I didn't know what else.
Of course. I mean, I think that's so typical, and it happens, which is why you do things like this, so people know this is not what you have to do. But yeah, anyway, carry on. Yeah.
So we have Danara Monk, who's talking about nutrition, different types of foods specifically that you want to eat for your hormonal health, and just create that environment that's going to support healthy hair growth. We have Dr. Rahi, who's talking about the different cutting edge solutions, like the exosomes and the PRP, like the most recent ones, right? And and peptides. A lot of people were talking about peptides and the different types of peptides that you can use. I have someone else, Dr. Seth Osgood, who's going to be talking about SIBO and Candida and H. pylori and how they lead to hair loss and thinning. I am myself talking about like the real root causes of hair loss, and I kind of busting those 15 myths to give people a reframe as to why it actually is possible to reverse hair loss naturally. And I'm having people talking about estrogen dominance. Rose McKenzie from Mira, she's going to be talking about estrogen dominance and how it leads to hair loss. Let's see, Dr. Sean Tassone, he's a hormone specialist, so he's talking about just these different types of hormones in women and how they all intersect when it comes to hair loss and how they influence the situation. I even have a hairstylist who specializes in hair loss, and she's going to tell us which treatments you don't want to use, what's a good way to cut your hair if you do have hair loss, just kind of hair care advice. When it comes to hair loss, whether or not you should use extensions, in what case, and so she's diving deep on that. I have Dr. Rob, I forgot his name right now, Dr. Rob Downey, he has a podcast, and I was on his podcast, and he's talking about the triad of the that is implicated with stress and hair loss, and exactly the mechanism that's leading to hair loss and thinning. I have Dr. Grace Liu who's talking about gut health, and we even shared like probiotics, a particular brand of probiotics that I actually, for the people that upgrade to VIP, I created a hormone balancing recipe that includes her probiotic.
Amazing.
So and there's also a living recipe book that my team constantly updates with recipes that we find that are free of inflammatory foods that will continuously grow. So when people upgrade to VIP, they get access to that. They get all the downloads of the videos, the transcripts, and they even get a supplement guide. Like, we created an actual supplement guide. Like, everyone who, and there's even a special offer for you for the people who upgrade to VIP. Like, there's this special thing that you get to do for them at a discounted rate, which we'll talk about on our show. So people want to learn and have to come and watch the summit. Yeah. Right. So there's a lot of value. Someone even gave away a course on EMF and grounding. We're talking about EMF and grounding hair loss. And if you upgrade to VIP, you get the course too, and you get a call with me. So there's a lot of different perks to VIP. But even if you just come for the free talk, it's so valuable because there's so many different experts in our field that are bringing conversations to light that you just cannot find on Google. You probably won't find anywhere else, to be honest, because a lot of people aren't talking about this. They haven't had the space to do so. Yeah. So, I mean, I keep going because there's 30 of us, but maybe that's good enough for now.
I don't know. It's all so good. So I think that one of the things that is interesting, because when people think of natural remedies, or they think of their symptoms, whatever their symptoms are. But hair loss, of course, is what we're talking about. It's like this automatic. If it's not drugs, it's supplements, right? And so everybody's like, hey, I just need to take some biotin, or I need to take some collagen, and all of these different supplements. And you're like, why are they not working for me, right? And so what are your comments if somebody says, but I've been taking these supplements and my hair's still not growing?
Oh, I have so many people that come to me and they're already spending like $300 on hair supplements, and it's like, well, this one's $80 and that one's $53, and they all are labeled as hair loss supplements, some of them, right? I know that particularly like the biotin is labeled as, hey, you want to take this if you want to regrow your hair. Even sometimes vitamin D, people are taking that. They're taking zinc, selenium. Yeah. They're like, these are the usual suspects. This is exactly what you need: iron. This is what you need to grow hair. I have all my deficiencies, I think, to sufficiency. So why is the hair not here? And to answer your question, the reason is they are too they're too narrowed in on that one aspect of, does my body have what it needs to grow hair nutritionally? And they're not asking themselves, is your digestive system working appropriately to actually break down those nutrients and bring them to the cell? Is your cell wall inflamed where it's not able to be conducive to allowing things to attach onto the receptors and be utilized? Are you also looking at the different mechanisms in your body that could be diverting blood flow away from your scalp because you're chronically stressed, or maybe you're growing adhesions in your scalp and you don't have that flexibility, and that's happening because you're chronically inflamed and you're genetically susceptible to create those adhesions there. So it's so multifactorial. And if you just focus on that one thing, you're never going to get the compound effect. So just how women, and men too, but I find often women, when they're losing their hair, it can happen very dramatically. Of course, it can take 20 years. I had hair loss for 10 years by the time I in the picture that I showed you. So in a way, it was a slow, gradual process, but it can also be a very aggressive process, especially the longer you've had the condition. At the same time, if you're able to find all of the different things that are minimizing the ability for your body to that's the key. Like, you have to address all the different things that could be inadvertently making it difficult for that to happen, right? You need to find the different triggers in your day-to-day life that are intentionally removing blood that's rich in nutrients and oxygen away from your hair follicle. And all of the things. So that's the reason why the supplements alone are not enough.
Well, and I think too that supplements, which I love, right? We love supplements. They do great. They're important. They're therapeutic. But they're also, they can be kind of that cover up too, right? So we use drugs as a symptom masker, right? We use drugs for these reasons, but supplements can be the same thing, right? So, yes, micronutrient deficiencies can be a problem, but it's not just, I got to go take some biotin and some collagen. We got to, just as you were saying, not say, okay, this is the answer. It's why would I need these in the first place, right? And so just, is it the toxicant exposures? Is it the inflammation from whatever, right? It can be infection. You were talking about SIBO and candida and so forth. All of these things that can push the inflammatory process, and then your body expresses a symptom, a hair loss, the inflammatory process, that kind of thing, right? And so I think that we need to have the mindset of I may need these supplements, sure, but why? Why do I need them in the first place? And that's, I think, probably the biggest thing that I think that probably you're the same way is it's always asking the question why. It's always digging deeper. There's always more to understand because we don't want to just take supplements just to take supplements. We need to understand the why behind it and address it that way. So, because, you know, once we start having symptoms, probably you're just going to have more and more symptoms if we're not addressing the root cause in the first place.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Like these supplements should be a tool in our toolbox.
Yeah.
Where we're aware of like, hey, this is exactly why I'm taking this, and I know it's working when I notice this symptom disappearing or this cluster of symptoms, you know, these clusters of symptoms improving. And once and there are some supplements that we're taking just to solve something, and then there's some that we're taking long term to be optimal. And so there's a time and a place, and the cadence of which you're taking all of these things makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And you know what you're materializing day to day, like physically in your body, just, you know, in your life.
Yeah.
Essentially. Well.
Yeah. So curious, we did talk about this the last time, but I know that anybody who's watching now who didn't see the last show, I know you did a lot of research and learning and understanding your situation. Did you figure out what it was that was causing your situation?
Oh yeah, it was so much. It was so much more than what meets the eye. I was diagnosed with androgenetic alopecia. At one point, they thought I had PCOS because I had cysts on my ovaries. Turned out I had estrogen dominance. I also had mold in the house and in my car. I also had amalgams in my mouth that were taken out improperly, so some kind of heavy metal poisoning. You know, gut dysbiosis, candida overgrowth, and you know, just multiple things going on that was affecting my immune system and just making my environment or my internal environment not as conducive to hair loss and thinning. And so what was important was for me to learn how to reverse engineer that result of having blood flow to the scalp and rich in nutrients and oxygen. And I think as long as we are aware of what our triggers are and we know how to undo the damage faster than we're redoing the damage while we're in the process of working on ourselves, right? Because life isn't perfect, we aren't perfect, like things are gonna happen. And the key is that we need to really give ourselves grace through the process, but keep our eye on the prize. And just be aware that if we want to be able to die without wearing a wig, which is the goal, die without wearing a wig. You did that, you're successful. Be happy with how you look without wearing a wig. You did that, you're successful when it comes to this hair loss thing. So if you're trying to, get to that end goal, then the idea is while you're working on yourself, how do you undo the damage faster than you're redoing the damage? And then that way there's always progress.
Yeah, gotcha. I think one of the things that sticks out to me, right? So we talk a lot on the show, and I know you talk a lot about mycotoxin exposures, mold exposures. And it's much more rampant than many of us understand, right? You're in Florida, you grew up in New York, right? So it's more humid there. There's sort of the expectation that still have an amazing amount of mold toxicity here, clients and patients who come in with mold toxicity, and it's in their homes and they don't know it. So it doesn't matter that it's a dry climate. What you said though was you had mold in your car. Nobody thinks about mold in their car. How did you discover that, and how does that even happen?
I decided to shampoo my car, and then when I did that, I parked it in the garage, and I didn't leave the windows vented. I was a new driver, I didn't really know any better. I had just moved to Florida not that long ago at that point too. And so I didn't know that, I didn't even know that mold was such a big deal either, right?
Yeah,
and so I know that I came back to the car the next day and there was a smell, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And I drove that car, I don't even know, like 6 years or something, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, but like that car had 242,000 miles before I let it go. Okay, there were different things that I tried to do. I was like, well, maybe I just need to leave, one of these humidity absorbers in the car, and maybe I just need to park it in the sun. Maybe I just need to rip out the bottom part. And I did that at one point. Like I ripped out the bottom part, and then the sponge that was under the carpet of the car was stinky and whatnot. But it had gotten into the AC because, the air circulates and all of that. And I would just notice, like, when I went into my car, I would get symptoms from being in my car. It was like I felt fine, then I got to the car, and I was driving all day long, going to different doctor's offices. As I was in the medical field, visiting gastroenterologists and infectious disease doctors and all the things. And so I'm in my car pretty much like almost 8 hours in a day, inhaling this and just noticing, like, man, like, how come when I go into the car, like, I'm feeling this and that, and what's that smell? And so yeah, that was how it happened in my case. But then I also found mold in the home too, and we didn't know that we had, and kind of have been, so we remediated that, but have been in the process of trying to detox from mold, but maybe we need to do it like even more aggressively, right? Because my husband, we did labs on him and he has it too, right? So it's like, okay, so was the remediation that we did in the house enough? Or is it just that our systems are having a hard time getting rid of it, right? And so then it's like the next thing that we need to explore, as we prepare to have a baby, that's going to be an important, thing for us to make sure that we're healthy as possible before we conceive.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing for anybody out there who thinks or knows there's a mold toxicity struggle. That's a really tough thing it doesn't just go away, right? I mean, you have to use, there are some drugs that you can use, which I think tend to create more problems than not, but,
like the prescription binders?
Yeah. And so, but then, there are regular binders too, right? There's some really great binders that can work. There's infrared sauna that can work, right? All of these things that are really good for helping to move mold out. I love infrared sauna. I think it's one of the coolest things.
Yeah.
It's a really great therapy.
I've been using the sauna and the castor oil pack a lot, but I've been doing glutathione and and binders, but I think it's time to get a little bit more aggressive and maybe do bentonite clay and spirulina, and in addition to the binders, to mobilize it more, especially if I'm trying to mobilize mold more in preparation for conceiving a child. But it's one of those things that it's kind of like you had it in your house, you had it in your, like for me, I had it in my car, got rid of the car, have it in the house, and my house is actually not even that old. Like I got it in 2018, right? Like that's when it was made. So, but because of the poor ventilation, all the things, like it's just everywhere. And then the goal is like, okay, well, how do you strengthen your immune system so that you are less reactive, right? So it's kind of like, I could have mold, but if my immune system is stronger, then it's like, okay, maybe I'm not shedding a bunch of hair because of that, but we still have to deal with the mold. And trying to mobilize it out, because over a period of time it can cause bigger problems. It
can, and I think that's a really great point, because one of the things that I think that we often don't think about is the immune system and its ability to manage infections and its ability to manage mold toxicities and heavy metal toxicities. If we don't have a strong microbiome, then it's harder to manage these things, right? We have specific microbes that are there to pull out metals. They're there to pull out toxins and to manage the overgrowth of pathogenic and opportunistic bugs, right? And so we are in the society where we're not eating enough of the right fibers to support. We've got people who don't have some of the most basic keystone species that are there to build a robust immune system, right? A robust microbiome is a robust immune system to help us to manage these things that we are that we struggle with in life. I mean, it's life. It's part of it. There's mycotoxins everywhere. It's just how the world is, but we have to be able to manage it, right?
Yeah, and especially like a woman with a hair loss, you want to manage it in a way where you're not triggering more hair loss.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, because your first timer reactions are real, and you just kind of want to get to that point where you, of course, are supporting your body to be the healthiest that it can, given your exposures, but at the same time, keep in mind, like, how do you still feel beautiful and confident and, like, not suffer too much damage through that healing process.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I feel like we talked about this once before, but I have a client who is going through some pretty intense, she's got a lot of stuff going on, right? And so is going through some pretty intense therapies to help her. So her total tox panel, because I know you know these, her total tox panel was it was pages. It was this single page or maybe 2 pages of red. I was like, how does this happen? Is it her detoxification? Is it, so many things that can go into. I've not seen a panel like this. I don't think ever. It was intense. But she's now going through these therapies and, really significant Herxheimer and therapies that I don't do because it's medical therapies, or I guess medical regenerative medicine therapies. But anyway, she started losing her hair. And so I start asking her questions. When did the hair loss start? She said, well, about 6 weeks ago, which is about the time that she started doing these therapies. So it's a scary thing, but it's also, I think my prayer for her is it's part of the healing process, right? The body's kind of like, holy smokes, what just happened? This is a lot going on. And then you start healing, and it's not permanent hair loss, but just like you said, it's kind of a Herxheimer. It's kind of a, the body is in this little bit of shock mode, and it's like, okay, now I've got to try to heal,
Yeah, it's not permanent, but it can be mitigated. Like, if we're, there's certain things that we could do to support the immune system even more, to support her against oxidative stress, to try to minimize that as much as possible. There's like a whole growth cycle with the hair where, like, once it moves to the telogen phase where it's not like rooted and planted, it can fall out. But the whole thing is like, how do we stop it from falling out prematurely or stop it from moving to that phase? And what we're seeing there is that she's moving a lot of her hair from the anagen to the telogen phase where it can fall out in response to the therapies that are going on. So it's kind of been a shock to her nervous system, and her body has decided to compensate for that by offloading a bunch of hair, and hair has heavy metals in it, so it's almost like a secondary way of detoxification, so to speak, where the body's creating new hair to pull more heavy metals out, and it just, there's a lot of different things contribute to that, like the inflammation going on through this process, because inflammation is part of the healing process, the fact that inflammation requires a lot of oxygen, so, she could easily, take specific therapies to help with, like, binding, with increasing the oxygen supply, with antioxidants, and more like sweating and like specific things to try to mitigate that. I know you're not the one that's causing her to have that reaction. It's the other people that are doing like the intense therapies, and they're looking at it as in a risk reward profile. The risk of her not doing this is higher than the risk of her, doing it and losing the hair, because the hair will come back. And so it kind of just becomes a call of like, okay, each practitioner, each patient, and if she feels comfortable taking that, kind of temporary hit. I know the people in my practice are not, they're not trying to take the hit.
Well, they're already there, yeah.
They're already there. So, so it's like a different, focus and whatnot. But, like with cancer, some people do, the drug that makes all the hair fall out, but that risk reward profile is there as far as like, is this the right therapy for you at this time because of, the life or death situation? And it seems like that client has a lot going on, like, with all those things being red. So, I could see why they would feel like there's a need to take it there, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents of like, maybe there's more we could do you know, to try to protect her hair if that's something that she's not feeling comfortable gritting through.
Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate that. I think that's really good. Knowing the, you know, at least surface level biochemistry behind it, I think is an important piece, and I love that. So that's good. And I think that you're right. I think supporting her through these therapies, you know, she's doing some binders. I have her on some binders, but I like the idea, you know, really uploading her antioxidant capacity, I think is a really smart thing to do for her.
Yeah, and we're having on the summit a Blake Miller talk about his like liquid ozone supplement, which I use with my clients, and like we're even offering it at the summit, but that would be good for her.
Yeah.
You know, because it's gonna help increase the availability of oxygen in her blood and for her hair follicles, which is gonna, you know, support the hair staying in that anagen phase, and her being able to, you know, grow it long and not having it shed out prematurely. So, and that'll help like alkalize her and, you know, just create an environment that's more conducive to healthy hair growth, even in spite of these very invasive therapies. So I think that would be a good thing for her to I know you have her on the sauna and you have her on binders, antioxidant, yes, but I think this is another piece that is be important to make sure that, you know, we're minimizing, we're doing some damage control.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love ozone. Is it oral or is it topical?
It's actually like I have a bottle of it like right over there, or right on the counter over there. But it's a liquid. On the summit, people need to tune into the summit and then watch the talk with Blake Miller. There'll even be a link if you want to get it, basically. But it's just a liquid suspension, and you put a couple of drops. Like maybe you want to start with 45 and you work your way up to 60. All the way up to 90 drops a day, and you're sipping on it, you're not chugging it.
Okay.
But it's gonna help the amount of water that's able to get inside of your cell, and it also even changes the way that your blood is behaving. Like you'll sometimes the blood, when it can be like hypoxic, and it can have just be very sticky, right, and like viscous, so to speak, because of the different, like the debris we have, and just, you know, how suboptimal we are with our circulation. But once you introduce that, like within minutes, the cells, instead of being clumpy, they become more airy, and now they're able to do what they were intended to do well, right? As far as like supporting tissue, supporting repair, because the cells aren't behaving in a clumpy, you know, fashion that they weren't meant to be behaving in. I don't know that, like, you gotta watch the interview. You can really understand like the whole science behind it, but we even like show a video demonstration of it and how the blood changes. And when you have blood that is airy and full of oxygen and you know, just more conducive to motility and how it's traveling through the body, and how it's, you know, because the blood is the healer. Like the reason why people end up getting amputations if they have diabetes is because their blood was so viscous and thick that it wasn't able to make it to that extremity of the toe or the pinky or whatever, and then a bacteria came onto the scene because there was no blood and there was no life. And when there's no life, same thing like with someone who dies, bacteria shows up and decomposes the person. And so now you have like a live person attached to a gangrenous infection. You don't want that infection to spread, you gotta cut it off. And so it all starts with the premise of the blood is the healer. And so when we don't have the blood, there's no healing. And so in order for the blood to heal appropriately, because blood is the mechanism of, you know, oxygen and nutrients and all the things, in order for that to happen, you need it to be behaving, you know, in the way that it was intended, like where molecules are not stuck together and they're aired out, and you know, and so that you guys should definitely tune in so you can watch his video. But that would definitely be good for her. And when anyone is dealing with a Hersheimer reaction, also the immune system, like supporting how well the immune system is behaving and making sure it's not super hyper reactive is another thing too, that I think is important in the process.
Yep, agreed. Awesome. I want to, let's see, I want to talk a little bit. We'll come back to the summit at the end. We don't have a whole lot of time left anyway. But you're working on a really cool project, your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
Are you okay with talking a little bit about that?
Oh, girl, let's do it. I would love to.
I thought you would. So we're both Christians, and you have decided. Well, I'm going to let you tell the story. What you decided to do with this new YouTube channel that you're doing.
Yeah. So I was praying one day, and I didn't feel the presence of God. And I know it's not like we shouldn't think that we have to every single time, but I do have this like special relationship with God where I feel like there's been a couple prayers in a row and I'm not really feeling anything, I check in and I'm like, God, like what's going on? You know, like is there something I need to know? And how come I don't feel your presence? And then what came to me was you're in disobedience, and I was like, I'm in disobedient. What do you mean? You know, because like I try not to be in disobedience intentionally. And so I said, God, do me a favor and just, I'm going to pick up this pen and I'm going to put it on this paper. And I want you to write me a letter. I just want to like blank out my mind and you tell me what to write and just tell me what's going on. So, you know, I start writing and what's coming through is, you know, that he loves me, of course. He's so sweet and he's proud of me and all the things, which I thought was nice. But then he said that he's coming back soon. And, you know, Jesus has been saying that since 2,000 years ago. So I'm not really sure what he meant by that term of soon, but he did say that to me. Mm-hmm. And then he said, because of that, Satan is scrambling and he's kind of like, oh my gosh, like I'm running out of time. And he's trying to like, you know, get as many people as he can. And then he said he wanted me to save as many lives as possible. He said it was up to me to save as many lives as possible. And he wanted me to make it a daily practice to tell people about Jesus. And that if I did that he would bless me. This is what the letter said, okay? So I was just like, okay, God, you don't have to bless me, like, for me to do this. Like, I could just do it, you know? But since I have been trying to do that, I have seen, you know, some leaps, you know? And I would definitely want to give God the credit for that because everything I have is because of him. And so the way I started doing it was going on to this app that's called TV. It's like a Russian app, but you go on there and instead of a profile, when you swipe, you get a live person. So I was like going on there and just asking people like, hey, I'm on here praying for people. Can I pray for you? And so I was doing that, and like as of yesterday, 60 people followed me in the prayer to give their lives to Jesus. So I was just like, okay, so this is like working. Yeah, God is good, you know? So I was like, okay, so this is like working, that maybe this is a thing. But that being said, it was hard for me to make that a daily practice, right? Because you gotta like intentionally get ready to meet a stranger on camera and just have your game on of like, I'm gonna like influence you to pray with me, you know, with God's help, right? Like it's like a whole mental energy thing. And so I was just like, how can I be more consistent with this daily practice, leveraging something else, right? And so I said, you know, I knew that there was like these very spiritual experiences that I've experienced that people, when I share these stories, like they're just like, wow, like that is, you know, very striking that this is happening in modern day. You know, these very spiritual experiences are happening in modern day, and so many, you know, I would say, at least for me, it feels like a lot, right? And so I kind of was like, oh man, do I do this YouTube channel? Do I not? Because I'm so busy with my business and all these other things. But then, you know, that whole tragedy happened with that young man, you know, who was kind of executed in front of everyone. Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I know he's a little controversial, but because that happened, like I was just like, you know what? Like if he can be so bold with his faith to the point that it was inconvenient, to the point where he literally like couldn't raise his kids and like, you know, finish on this movement that he started, I had no excuse, zero, you know, to come on. And then I decided to like pray and fast one day, and I was like, God, can you just give me a sign that the YouTube channel is what you want me to do? I just want to be sure, because I don't want to do it if I don't have, you know, your blessing or you're not like in this. And when that day that I was fasting, I went through social media and I saw an image of someone on the stage, and it was like at one of his conferences, like some kind of pastoral conference that he has, and it said Faith Forward, which is the name of my YouTube channel. So I was just kind of like, all right, okay, I'm going to take it as a sign, you know, because I specifically just asked you, God, like, if this is what you really want me to do. And I know that it's a way for me to be in obedience and, like, do it daily without having to actually, like, talk to people daily. So I started a YouTube channel where I'm sharing these very personal experiences in the spiritual realm, so to speak, through Christianity. I think right now there's a hunger for spiritual awakening. And people are experiencing that in multiple ways. Like they might experience it at church when they praise God, but they might also be delving into other things, even in the healing arena. You know, because they want more. They want that. They know there's something more. Especially with the way the world is going, it's like the only thing that can save us is tapping into the spiritual world, right? Like if we end up getting to a point where, you know, we feel like we've run out of options, what does everyone do at that point? They turn to God, because you know, but he shouldn't be our last option.
Right.
He should be our first option, right?
Yeah.
And so the channel is based on that premise of helping people understand that when you are able to tap into spirituality through Christianity and like learn spiritual warfare and learn how to pray and learn how to listen to God and learn how to believe that he's talking to you and learn how to like live your life looking for those conversations and just, you know, behaving as if you have that communication, then that's when he kind of shows up very fiercely. And you can have a life where you're literally just waiting for the next miracle. And you can have a life where, you know, things are going awry and not how you want, but have a sense of peace around it because you know at the end of the day, God's got you and it's just part of his master plan and you don't know the whole plan yet, but he's already figured it out and he doesn't make any mistakes, right? And so that's what I think, especially now with like the way things are going with like politics and AI and just like the world is changing so dramatically. The only way to come against that, the only way to have protection and survive that is to know how to pray. It's to learn the power of fasting and prayer. It's to understand how the spiritual world works, because the battle is not against flesh and blood, it's against principles and principalities. And, you know, they are, you know, you can compound leap to, you know, to where you're trying to go if it's aligned with God's plan and you're, you know, you're giving him your plan so he could direct your path.
So good. So good. And I'm so excited for you. So you're doing this every day, your YouTube channel?
Every week.
Every week. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Every week I'm releasing like the next story. So I kind of told God like, hey, I have a repertoire of stories. I'm gonna go through all of them. I was like, it's up to you to give me more stories, or you're gonna have to tell me what to come up with next, right? Like, what, you know, what message do you want me to share with people? But you know, I've had like some very spiritual things happen, like, you know, kind of like demonic things come against me, you know, like people that were kind of practicing spiritual things on the other side, that were kind of doing, you know, trying to do things to me, like just spiritual experiences, like in my home, like just very, you know, things that just don't happen all the time. And like the only way that I was able to get to the other side of hearing, you know, footsteps in my home or having like a witch try to do something to me was understanding what was going on and knowing how to fight against that with spirituality through Christ.
Good. Awesome. Well, I'm excited. I've seen one of them, and so I'm going to, that's like on my list of to-dos, is to start weekly watching your YouTube, and I hope that others do too. I think that you're so well spoken and your storytelling is so good, especially when it's real. I mean, the one that you sent me was the footsteps one, and just chills the entire time. Like I was trying to work and I was just sitting there watching it. You know, it was like it was really good. But I think that in my mind, a key takeaway to that, because this is something that I'm working on, is how to pray. Right? And so Christ gives us a sort of a breakdown, right? The Lord's Prayer on how to pray. But there's still, I know with me, there's still so much more for me to learn in this. And so I'm excited to continue my own learning journey and building my relationship with Christ. And I love what you're doing, and I'm grateful for your friendship, and I'm grateful for you just getting out there and just doing it, because that's hard stuff to do. and I'm sure it's a little bit scary.
Yeah, it's a little inconvenient, I would say, but that's what God called me to do, you know.
Yeah.
So kind of put mine to talent, right? So yeah, but it inconvenient, but an honor, right?
Yeah,
at the same time, and
sure.
I definitely wanna stress that and know that I'm not taking for granted the fact that He chose me to kind of have these experiences. And there are a lot of stories coming from, like, you know, God telling me to cast out a demon, to, like, you know, how I met my husband, which was like from a 40-day fast, and you know, like just a lot of stories coming, right? So whoever wants to tune in, it's called Faith Forward. You can, you know, we air every Sunday at 5 p.m. So you guys can check the episodes. But yeah, I think that people need to know that there's a better way to fight your battles.
Awesome. Very cool. Faith Forward, check it out. It's a good one. And the summit. So this is the Confidence and Beauty Summit, correct? And
real root cause resolutions that reverse women's hair loss naturally. That's the tagline.
I love it. This is going to be a really great summit. So all of the information is going to be in all the comments and in all of the information for, you know, with the podcast and the show and all the places. But give details on what to expect, the dates, the times, all of that stuff.
Okay, yeah, so they could just go to hairlossresolutions.com. For now, we'll have an extra link for Nikki specifically too, like in a few days here. But for now, they can go to hairlossresolutions.com, and they'll just register with their email, phone number if they want to. And what that will do is kind of put you in queue to receive the daily release of the episodes. So every day we'll have 4 or 5 episodes coming out, and you will have the entire day to watch all of them, skim through them, whatever the case may be. They're all liquid, or not liquid because it's not liquid, but they're like, you know, digital gold. So like, make sure you take your time, like put it in your schedule so that you don't miss it. Because everybody was so generous. Like we didn't hold back. Everybody was so generous with like wanting to help these women. And so that's the format. Every day you get a new email with all the different episodes that you can watch for that day. Unless you upgrade to VIP, then you get to download all of them and all the other things we talked about earlier. And then there's also a call on the last day, Sunday. There's a live call, so there'll be like an additional teaching that'll take place, so that we can end it with a bang. And that's the expectation, that you go and you register with your email and you sign up for free, and then you kind of decide if you want to take us up on any of the other things that we're offering. But the intention of the summit is to give you a mindset shift, because a lot of people with hair loss, they're thinking like, I've tried everything, and they're like, I tried, you know, this or that. And when you listen to our interviews, you will know there's no way that you could have tried everything.
Right. Awesome. Well, we have that link in all of the information for, like I said, for the podcast, for the show, and for the live feed. So you can find that link. We will continue, though, to promote and to share. So, I'll have it in my newsletter. So obviously you can sign up for my newsletter and check that out. You can go to the website. It's going to be on my website. It's not there yet, but it will be. And so we're going to do our best just to help to get this out as much as we can. I think it's really important. And I just love what you're doing. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, November 10th to the 16th. So November 10th is the first day, and November 16th is the last day. Awesome. So those are the days that you want to make sure you're available to catch those episodes.
Cool. All right. Very good. Well, thank you again for joining. This has been super fun. Thank you for sharing all of the things that you're doing. I know you have a ton on your plate, and you're just out there kicking ass, and it makes me really, really happy.
So are you. Thank you so much. It's I don't take for granted the opportunity to share a microphone on your platform. So thank you so much for making space for me, even like kind of in this tight little schedule. You know, it's so nice to spend time with you, and however I can get it.
Awesome. Thank you. All right,
Okay,
everybody. Check out Saril's website. Check out her summit. You can find me, of course, at tastelifenutrition.com. You can find us here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, streaming live on kuhsdenver.com. We'll see you not next week. I'm on vacation next week, so we'll see you the week after that. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks so much.
Yes, hairlossresolutions.com, you guys.
Yes,
hairlossresolutions.com.
Yes, perfect. I'm glad you said that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it. Did I say the website? I was like,
kind of important, right?
Okay, yeah, say it again. hairlossresolutions.com. Okay.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you. Stick with me just 1 second. Okay. Bye, everybody. Oh, give me 1 second.
Yeah, sure.